This kid's stuck living in a bubble 24/7. No exceptions. It turns out Jimmy Livingston is born with an immune system disorder, which means he can't be exposed to anything from the outside world. He spends his early years in a sterile hospital room, and it's not until he's 4 that the doctors finally allow him to go home. Even after bringing him home, Mrs. Livingston is terrified Jimmy might catch a deadly infection, so she builds him a bubble room right in their house. From that day on, Jimmy's life is confined to this bubble. Even when his mom wants to touch his cheek, she has to do it through rubber gloves. His food is strictly controlled too. Every day it's the same carefully prepared biscuits. As for TV, Mrs. Livingston only lets him watch Land of the Lost, so Jimmy grows up thinking TV is a one-channel wonder. But despite it all, Jimmy remains a cheerful kid. He doesn't mind living in a bubble as long as his mom and dad visit him every day. Just seeing them fills him with joy. Jimmy has lived in his bubble since birth, and the Livingstons' unusual setup catches the attention of the neighborhood bullies. They think Jimmy, who's always cooped up in his bubble room, is a total weirdo. They often taunt him from outside, wearing plastic bags like makeshift costumes.
Get out of here, you little bugger! Go on!
To help Jimmy pass the time, Morton buys him a bicycle, though he has no idea how to teach him to ride it.
Kill him with that thing!
When Jimmy turns 18, his life takes a turn. On his birthday, instead of the car he's always dreamed of, Morton gives him an electric guitar. Besides the guitar, Jimmy's favorite pastime is obsessively cleaning windows with a towel.
No, a lot.
Speaking of the female lead, meet Chloe, the new neighbor, and let me tell you, Chloe is drop-dead gorgeous. After watching Chloe wash her car, Jimmy feels a rush of unfamiliar heat. Panicking, he yells for his mom, who immediately understands what's going on.
Just do what I tell your father. Just say the Pledge of Allegiance over and over until it goes away.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, under God.
Turns out Mrs. Livingston's advice does the trick, and Jimmy cools off. Meanwhile, Chloe starts noticing Jimmy. The local guys keep telling her he's a freak, a guy who's been stuck in a bubble room for over a decade. But the more they talk, the more curious Chloe gets. One day, she decides to visit him. As soon as she steps inside, she notices a massive tube running from the second floor to the living room. This is how Jimmy moves around the house. But instead of freaking out, Chloe vaults over the tube and charges upstairs. At 16, Jimmy meets a girl other than his mom for the first time. He's so nervous he's tripping over his words, trying to talk to Chloe. He even tries to impress her by playing his guitar. Chloe is charmed by his innocence. After she leaves, Mrs. Livingston immediately disinfects the bubble room. Over time, Chloe and Jimmy become close friends. They play guitar together, sunbathe together, and even invite the neighborhood bullies over for cosplay. For the first time in his life, Jimmy experiences excitement and variety. But as they spend more and more time together, Mrs. Livingston starts to worry. Every time Chloe visits, she makes excuses to clean the bathroom, hovering nearby with the vacuum cleaner. The floor in Jimmy's room is practically polished to a shine from all the vacuuming, and Chloe can't find a moment alone with him. Frustrated, Chloe hatches a plan. Late one night, Chloe climbs over the wall into Jimmy's room carrying 2 bottles of alcohol. She's determined to have a heart-to-heart with him. She crawls into the tube leading to his bubble room, ready to push open the door. But Jimmy knows that if he gets too close to Chloe, he could die from a bacterial infection. For the sake of his life, he doesn't open the door. After that, their friendship comes to an abrupt end. Chloe moves on and starts dating a new guy, Mark. One day, she brings Mark to visit Jimmy and tells him they're engaged. She even tells Jimmy that if he steps out of his bubble and takes her away, she'll break up with Mark on the spot. But Jimmy is too scared to leave his bubble, and he can only watch as Chloe and Mark walk away.
All women will leave you someday. Girl didn't love you? So sorry for you.
On her last day before leaving, Chloe visits Jimmy alone and gives him a farewell gift. She tells him her wedding will be at Niagara Falls and hopes he'll come to celebrate with her.
Take Bubble, guinea pig, because I don't want him anymore.
So that's it? That's all you're gonna say? Hi, Jimmy.
Goodbye.
After Chloe leaves, Jimmy opens the gift and discovers the snow globe. The words, "I love you," are clearly written on it. Realizing Chloe's true feelings, Jimmy finally decides to take action. He works through the night, calculating the distance and modifying a bubble suit for himself. Then, wearing the suit, he rolls downstairs and sprints to the bus station, hoping to catch a bus to Niagara Falls. But when he tries to buy a ticket, he realizes he forgot to bring money. The ticket clerk jokes, "Why not walk? It's only 80 days." Naively, Jimmy believes him and starts walking down the road toward the falls. As he trudges along, head down. Out of nowhere, a bus plows into Jimmy in his bubble suit, sending him flying like a human beach ball. But thanks to the bubble suit's insane shock absorption, he bounces back completely unharmed, despite being launched dozens of feet. The bus passengers feel bad and pull him aboard, offering him a ride. But halfway through, Jimmy realizes these people are part of some crazy cult. They try to brainwash him into joining their weird group, but Jimmy's laser-focused on finding Chloe. He couldn't care less about their so-called deity, so they kick him to the curb. Left with no other choice, Jimmy keeps walking until he spots Slim, a motorcycle rider fixing his bike. After hearing Jimmy's story, Slim gets emotional. He spent his whole life searching for love, and even shows Jimmy a tattoo on his chest of a woman he calls his Wildfire. Turns out she was stolen by his own brother, and Slim's been chasing them ever since. Moved by Jimmy's journey, Slim agrees to take him to the waterfall. Jimmy's lived in a bubble his entire life. This is his first real adventure. Slim takes him on his motorcycle, speeding down the highway. But halfway there, Slim realizes he's broke and can't afford gas. Desperate, he drags Jimmy to a casino to win some quick cash, but they end up losing everything. Still, Slim can't tear himself away from the gambling tables. With Chloe's wedding fast approaching, Jimmy has no choice but to grab an electric scooter and hit the road solo. Meanwhile, the Livingstons discover Jimmy's gone and rush to the bus station. After interrogating the ticket seller, they speed off in hot pursuit. Late the next night, they finally catch up to Jimmy, still in his bubble suit, riding his scooter in the middle of nowhere. Mrs. Livingston gets so emotional that she grabs the steering wheel, hoping Morton can stop Jimmy. But the car spins out of control, sending Jimmy flying into a passing train car. Inside, he finds a group of bizarre-looking people. They're members of the Tall Man Circus. Their leader, Dr. Freak, is a pint-sized tyrant who rules his crew with a stick. He's intrigued by Jimmy's bubble suit and tries to recruit him into the circus. But Jimmy's only thought is finding Chloe, so he shuts it down. Dr. Freak pulls out his stick to force the issue, but the bubble suit blocks every hit. In the end, Jimmy uses a flying move to knock Dr. Freak out cold. Just as Jimmy's about to leave, the circus members rush out, declaring him their hero for taking down Dr. Freak and swearing to follow him everywhere. Jimmy's not about to babysit this crew of oddballs, so he bolts, with the circus members hot on his heels. Meanwhile, Morton and Mrs. Livingston find Dr. Freak by the train tracks and get directions to continue their chase. Elsewhere, the cult members hold a meeting, where their leader reveals a stone tablet that declares the man in the bubble suit is the prophesied savior. Realizing they've met Jimmy, the cult members jump into their bus to bring him back. At the same time, Slim, now broke, runs into the cult members on the street asking for directions. Slim loses his cool and goes full-on rage mode, even pulling out a knife to scare them off. But the cult members aren't pushovers. They crush his motorcycle and drive off. Furious, Slim rounds up a gang of bikers to chase the cult bus. Meanwhile, Jimmy's at a bar, trying to figure out how to get to the waterfall. A taxi driver, Pappy, offers to take him for $500. So Jimmy enters the bar to earn some quick cash. He stumbles into a mud wrestling match with a $500 prize and, without a second thought, dives in, turning it into a hilariously messy free-for-all. After winning the money, he's about to leave when the cult members spot him and haul him onto their bus for a welcome ceremony. But the circus members catch up and pull him off the bus, only to run into Slim and his biker gang. Chaos erupts as the three groups clash. Jimmy, caught in the middle of the chaos, sneaks away and hops into Pappy's car. Along the way, Pappy shares his own story of losing the woman he loved to his brother, Pippi. Jimmy quickly shuts up, not wanting another Slim situation. The next morning, Jimmy notices Pappy isn't responding and realizes he's passed away. The car is now heading straight for a roadblock, so Jimmy jumps out just in time to save himself. But the delay allows his pursuers to catch up. Just as he's about to be overwhelmed, Pippi shows up in an old plane, claiming he's fulfilling his brother's wish. Jimmy clings to the plane as it flies toward the church. Meanwhile, after a car crash, Slim discovers that Mrs. Livingston is actually his long-lost love.
Wildfire?
Slim?
The old plane's engine fails, and Jimmy crashes into Niagara Falls. The wedding has already started, but Jimmy, still in his bubble suit, sprints in just as Chloe is about to say, "I do." He delivers a heartfelt confession and even rips open his bubble suit, despite his air allergy, to give Chloe a true love's kiss.
I'd rather spend 1 minute holding you than the rest of my life knowing I never could.
Make you so bright.
After the kiss, Jimmy collapses, seemingly dead from infection. Just kidding, he's just passed out. When the Livingstons arrive, they reveal the truth. Jimmy's illness was cured when he was 4, but Mrs. Livingston lied to keep him close. Jimmy forgives her and finally wins Chloe's heart. They finally marry at the waterfall, with the circus members and cult followers in attendance. Mrs. Livingston, meanwhile, fully embraces her wild side and starts a chaotic throuple with Morton and Slim. So that's the wild ride of Bubble Boy, a 2001 cult classic that's equal parts hilarious and heartwarming. Sure, it's a bit dated, but Jake Gyllenhaal's performance is pure gold, and his charm is impossible to resist. If you're into quirky comedies, this one's a must-watch. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more crazy movie breakdowns. See you next time.